Right now, you're going to be hearing from me my reaction, honestly, to what happened on January 5th before the protest on the Capitol. That was the Senate runoff in Georgia, which was an extremely important election for the sake of the Senate of the United States of America. Now, this needle was all over the place. As you can see right now, we're going to scroll down here and look at what happened. So, let's keep going down, and we're gonna really find what's gonna go on here. Of course, the New York Times is gonna be a shitty website in terms of looking things up, but I'm gonna do it at real time. As you can see now that the elections are done, the Democrats have won an asterisk 50 seats. Of course, Angus King is an independent, but is more or less a Democrat. Senator Sanders, of course, is a far left Democrat, and the Republicans are, at 50 with Mitch McConnell as their leader. Okay, so if we look onto the Senate races, very important what happened here. Okay, so Raphael Warnock, the black guy who ran over his wife's foot, but that's allegedly her that said that she got run over. Should you believe a woman when she says that? Who knows? Point is, though, is that Raphael Warnock did win. Now, did he cheat? Well, yeah, obviously, but was there fraud? Yeah, of course. But did he win either way without the fraud? Well, he won by 91,000 votes, I believe. 89,000 votes. That's a 2% win. I don't think that he should have won by this much in a clean election, but again, I'm not going to be crying over Loeffler. In terms of, there was a problem in terms of the tabulation of the votes. Apparently, there was 50K extra votes found in the middle of the night, but I will be back to you soon. Okay, now we are on to the presidential election results. So apparently, I think this was either in DeKalb or Fulton County. So you can see here, Fulton had 380,000. DeKalb had 308,000 for Biden, right? And as you can see here, when you go to DeKalb and Fulton, there's less votes here, even with the 50K accounted for. So it seems fine to me. In terms of what they did here, it turns out 27 and 16% for Loeffler. If we look at Trump, it was 26 and 15.7. So they did about the same here in the metro area right now. In terms of what I think happened here, the 50K votes seems like, a liberal friend of mine told me that it was a mistabulation. They don't seem like fraudulent votes to me, because even with the 50K, it is less than what the 2020 presidential turnout was. So it seems okay to me. So even with the 50K votes of fraud, assuming that's even true, Kelly Loeffler would have lost by a lot less, but still. So L for her. Now, in terms of what happened here, let's look at the trend. As you can see, everything basically went blue, besides perhaps Webster County and Glasscock County, which I think is weird. That's a bizarre way of looking at the trend. But as you can see, this is mostly a black people trend, besides Stevens and Rabun County. But yeah, kind of interesting. So it seems to me that hold on. If you look at the shift, was the shift the same? No. As you can see here, Trump was able to do better around this center part of the state, and Kelly Loeffler did not materialize it. So that's an interesting point. I heard that more black people voted in this election by like a couple percent. That definitely did hurt Loeffler, but that wasn't a determining factor in my opinion. Now, if you add in the lack of the Trump base plus the blacks, then maybe, and fraud, yeah, maybe she would have won. But still, I think it's indicating to me that Warnock was able to win even with the fraud, because you do the ballot application, the signature verification. I don't know if Loeffler would do that. And even if there was fraud, she did not contest the election, so that's her fault. And she looks like a loser now, and she deserves to lose. Warnock, a radical liberal, Raphael Warnock, I don't like him either, okay, of course. All Democrats basically are worse than any of the Republicans. I get this. So while I wanted both Republicans to win, the Warnock seat was the least relevant one, because in 2 years, he'll be up for re-election, and presumably a Biden midterm, assuming there's a miracle. there isn't, but assuming, Biden's going to be the president in 2 years. Let's assume also that Warnock would be running again in 2022. Then it'd be an R+4 electorate, or however much it may be. And then the Republicans should easily win, whether that be Vernon Jones or Doug Collins or Jody Hice or somebody along those lines. So it does not seem like a good election here. Did she lose fair and square? No, we should never say anybody won fair and square, basically, in terms of the election, because the doubt is definitely there. My question is necessarily, though, that she underperformed, okay? In terms of Ossoff, we can talk about this as well. John Ossoff, who is a Jewish guy, was he a congressman? I don't even know. Point is, though, is that he was a relatively new face here onto Georgia politics, even though he did run, I think, for Georgia's 6th or 7th congressional district and got destroyed, even with the most funding from Hollywood and all that. In terms of Ossoff, he won by 1.1%, 1.2 rounded up. One, of course, an asterisk, because you can never know with these people. Perdue lost by 51,000 votes. 50 point something K. So that's outside of the 50K mistabulation, so he lost that. In terms of signature verification, that might be within the range of fraud. I don't really know, but 1.1% is still worse than what Donald Trump did. In terms of the percentage of the vote, though, he got 49.4%, whereas Donald Trump got 49.26%. But assuming the Libertarian took a little bit, I assume that they did about the same. So Perdue did it about the same as Trump did as a proportion, though. What I would say, though, is that Ossoff was, through some miracle, I don't know what the hell happened here, but it apparently seems to me that Ossoff gained a ton. When you look at these the runoff here, Perdue got 49.7, even with the Libertarian taking votes. And he lost a little bit of the base through a sit-out. I think there was 4,000 votes for Groyper in Georgia, and that's part of the reason why his vote share decreased a little bit. So it seems to me like the sit-out crowd was not determinant in this election. In terms of John Ossoff, you can see here that he was at 47.9, right? And he all of a sudden got to 50.6. So that's an increase of 2.7%. Where the hell he got this? The Libertarian did not have enough votes to do that. If you add the Libertarian and the vote share decrease, then that would lead to John Ossoff's lead. So I don't know how the hell that happened. Did the Libertarian people that voted for Shane Hazel not show up for either of these candidates? I don't know what happened. But though, this is bull. I personally think that this was stolen. Of course, if you apply the signature verification, David Perdue should have been able to win outright with over 50% of the vote, but because that didn't happen, and he didn't contest it because he's gay, he was able to take the loss later on in January. Although, what I would say is that if he were to necessarily come in and, I'm a little mad about the jungle primary. I think that's a stupid idea, and ultimately gives the Democrats more leverage here, which is unfortunate. And if there was no jungle primary, Perdue would have won outright with like 1.8% ahead of Ossoff, leading him by like 88,000 votes. Truly unfortunate that the Georgia Republicans did not get their act together. But this is just pathetic. I don't really... Hold on. It seems like Perdue lost more of his steam than Ossoff did. Ossoff did run a good campaign. He did campaign a lot. And in terms of work and hard work, both the black guy and the Jew did work really hard, Assaf and Warnock. And I do think that led to them in part winning. And ultimately, Perdue thought he was, real shit, and he got killed. And he deserves to lose, as did Kelly Loeffler. We saw what she did to us the day after. She did not object like she promised she would. And thousands of Trump supporters voted for them both, on the contingent base that they would object, and they didn't. They're liars. They are liars, and they deserve to lose. Did I want them to lose? No, but still. But yeah, as you can see here, this black vote did help them, but it wasn't that many votes, though. If you look around here, excluding Atlanta, this was not that many votes in increase. It could have been maybe, 20,000 or something, but it was not enough to flip the election. Now, if you were to look at Atlanta, this is what brought it home, okay? And this is not good. Now, in terms of, so Perdue just did worse virtually everywhere besides maybe a tiny bit better in these Collier County areas. I believe they're called. Webster, for whatever reason, trended in their direction, but that's like not even 1,000 votes for Perdue anyway. Eccles County, but I don't know why that happened. But as you can see here, there is a demographic problem going on in the metro area. The suburbs are bleeding, and we definitely need to win them back. If you're going to keep Georgia safe red, of course, that's probably not going to happen in the near future. Though I do think that we're kind of screwed in Georgia. I honestly, if the riots won't make the suburbs trend back red, I don't know what the hell will. The Perdue did about the same as did Loeffler and Trump in the Atlanta region. Honestly, Atlanta is growing too fast, and we do need to somehow combat this. My coverage of this is that, it may have been stolen. And probably Ossoff did steal the election from Perdue. If you enforce the signature verification all the way, if you went after double votes, yeah, sure, felons voting, I get it. But this was winnable even with the fraud. Seeing how close this was, these were both tilt blue, in my opinion. These two elections were tilt blue. I just see this as sort of a vindication of America First. These people, even though on the surface, Trump did lose Georgia, allegedly, and so they were like, oh, why would you support Trump? He lost. Look, they got less votes than Trump, first of all. Second of all, the trend was universal, okay? So the Trump people didn't save you because you didn't deserve it. And maybe Loeffler did lose despite the fraud, but maybe, Perdue should have won. And we did know Perdue won in the general election in November 3rd. So, Perdue should be senator. I get it. Perdue got it stolen, but at the same time, they could have still have won it. They could have won it, but because they're faggots and they betrayed our president and they betrayed the voters, they rightfully lost. So, again, I would have preferred them winning, but this isn't the end of the world. Warnock is due to lose in 2 years. Ossoff, that's a definite loss. That's a big L. That's an L for Georgia politics. That's going to be a big L. No, seriously, though, this is a big problem with the Republican Party. We need to get our act straight. This losing both of these was just monumentously a big deal. There's very little upside to losing the Senate other than accountability for the Democrats when things go bad. But still, and in terms of my prediction, I predicted if there was no fraud that they would both win by tilt, and I predicted that if Perdue, if there was fraud, they'd be pure toss-ups. I was more or less correct. In terms of who would have done better, I was conflicted, if I remember right. I think I said that I don't remember who I had winning. Warnock did better, I think, because he might have maybe done a little bit better with the blacks. There's no exit polls right now, so that's an interesting thing. In terms of Loeffler, I think she got less of the establishment Republican and the Trump base, whereas Perdue, being a man, I guess, and having more name recognition, did a little bit better by 0.9%. So I don't know who did better overall. I think if the media were covering Warnock fairly, he would have definitely have lost. It is really upsetting that a guy like Warnock got to win in Georgia, though he is black, so that is an advantage. If Warnock had been a white guy, maybe he would have done a little bit worse with the black people. But who knows? Loeffler did not deserve to win. She did betray the president, so she deserved it. And in terms of how she could have maybe done things differently, would have been if both Perdue and Loeffler had said since the beginning, been the first people to object to the electors and go on the record as doing so. And in terms of defending the Stop the Steal and going ahead and contesting the results from the first election, then Perdue would have been able to win maybe, and Loeffler would have been had a fighting chance here. Loeffler did do bad in the debates in terms of being robotic, and that was a big problem. And clearly, the Republicans need to be able to mobilize the white base and win back the suburbs at the same time somehow. And okay, so now we move on to the race between Ossoff and Perdue. I think Ossoff did a good job campaigning, though I would say Perdue lacked. So while the Democrats did as well as they possibly could, given the cards they were handed in Georgia, I think the Republicans did not play every card they had, and that's why they lost. And again, fraud. Yeah, I get it, but still, they lost. And we should rub it in their face that they lost, okay? Because this is a thing here. Trump got more votes than they did. Okay, and you could say it's a different turnout, but if it had been that radically different of a candidate, then they would have had shifting vote totals, wouldn't they? Donald Trump basically, at worst case, did about the same as Perdue did, and better than Loeffler. So don't blame Trump for this. It's not his fault. And if people say, well, if Trump didn't talk about fraud, then they would have not have sat out the election. First of all, it's yet to be proven if the sit-out actually did make either of them lose. And second of all, so did you want them not to cover the fraud, retards? I mean, are you kidding me? So don't listen to the National Review. Don't listen to Ben Shapiro. They do not have your interest. If they want to cry over Mitch McConnell losing the majority-ship or whatever, go ahead and let them cry, okay? This was a deserved loss, and I hope people get the right impression from it. If they don't, well, that's an L. Anyways, guys, I think my prediction was about 90% right. I probably overestimated Loeffler by, let's say, 0.1% then. And yeah, this was bad. I did predict them both winning, more or less. But again, fraud probably stole it from Perdue. Perdue should have won the general election outright without the primary anyway. So, whatever. They deserve to lose. Big loss. Fuck the establishment. I mean, what do you want me to say? An L's an L, but at least the L landed on the faces of two people we don't like, right, guys? Anyways, thank you and bye.